Hello mathematicians, it's Miss Armgard back with another instructional video. Today we are talking about absolute value and using that to compare integers. So let's review first. What does it mean to be an opposite integer or an opposite of an integer? So 4 and -4 are opposite. That means that -4 and 4 have the same distance from 0. So if we look at our number line here, we can see that 0 in the middle is 4 spaces to the right, and -4 is 4 spaces to the left. They are the same distance. They are both 4 spaces from 0. So now let's look at our example from a previous video. How many blocks did you walk? You walked 6 blocks east to the friend's house, then 10 blocks west to the park. So we have 6 and 10 labeled here. The absolute value of each, and we add them together, we get you walked a total of 16 blocks. Now, likely you have already done this in your head. If I said, what was the total blocks you walked? You would say 16. We're just adding these lines, these brackets, to the number to indicate the absolute value. Is the distance from 0. It can never be negative because we're just talking about how many numbers are in between that number and 0. So the absolute value of 5 is 5 then. And the absolute value of -5 is also 5. They are both the same distance from 0, just in opposite directions, but both are 5 away from 0. So magnitude is another word you might hear when we talk about absolute value. So if you've ever heard an adult say the magnitude of that problem or the magnitude of what's happening in our world today, magnitude means size or distance. So how big or small, how far or close. So magnitude is just a word to say, well, 3 has a smaller magnitude than 15 because it is closer to 0. So we have two numbers here. We have -4 and 6/10, and we have 3 and 2/10. So which one is further from 0? Well, that would be -4 and 6/10, because there is more space than there is between 0 and 3.2. So the magnitude of 4.6 is simply 4.6, which is the same thing as saying the absolute value of -4.6. The magnitude of 3.2 is 3.2, which is the same as saying the magnitude of which is the same as saying the absolute value of 3.2. So now let's use our inequalities, our greater than and less than, to compare. So you can either use the magnitude or the absolute value. I'm going to show absolute value. So the absolute value of -4.6 is greater than the absolute value of 3.2. Now we know 3.2 is the bigger number, but the distance from 0 is greater for -4.6. You can also write this as 3.2 is less than 4.6 if we use the magnitude. Folks, you have a different problem on your notes, so please take a moment, pause your video, solve it now, check your answer with the formative, and don't forget to fill out your vocabulary. I am Miss Armgart saying happy solving.